Hola, buenos días a todos. ¿Vale? Bueno, pues lo primero de todo agradecer vuestra presencia aquí, agradecer también la presencia del profesor Alex Sautra, ¿vale? Que nos va a deleitar con una ponencia realmente exquisita sobre la inteligencia social. Para nosotros, bueno, pues para mí como representante del Colegio Oficial de Psicólogos y como responsable de la vocalía de intervención social, pues para mí es un placer pues, contar con tu presencia, Alex, una figura de referente mundial y que yo creo que supone para nosotros, para la vocalía de intervención social, supone un paso adelante muy importante en la implicación y en el reconocimiento que queremos ir dando también desde el colegio, no solo a los procesos de psicología clínica o sanitaria, sino también a la psicología social, que es un aspecto muy importante de nuestro trabajo y desarrollo cotidiano, nuestra práctica diaria, ¿vale? Entonces, bueno, la verdad es que no me gustaría tampoco extenderme mucho más, porque el protagonista es Alex. También dar las gracias a Carmen, porque ha sido ella realmente todo su equipo de la Universidad Rey Juan Carlos los que nos han hecho partícipe de este gran proyecto, que además tiene mañana su continuidad en las jornadas que se van a realizar en la universidad. Y nada, pues un placer para nosotros poder colaborar con Alex, poder colaborar con Carmen, que estéis aquí todos vosotros y poder colaborar también con la Universidad Rey Juan Carlos en este tipo de actividades, y que bueno, pues aquí tenéis en el colegio, tenéis vuestra casa para cualquier cosa más que nos queráis proponer. Entonces, bueno, pues doy la palabra a Carmen para que nos presente y nos hable de la trayectoria y obra de Alex, ¿vale? Muchas gracias. Carmen.
Muchas gracias, Manuel, por la presentación. Yo quería utilizar 5 minutos, única y exclusivamente, porque, como bien ha explicado, Alex está aquí por una estancia de investigación postdoctoral en la que yo estaba muy ilusionada por poder colaborar con él. Como ahora mismo os explicará él, no quiero perder el tiempo en presentarle. Ha estado trabajando mucho tiempo en resiliencia y todo comenzó porque yo quería aprender sobre el trabajo en resiliencia y en emociones. Y me fui a la Universidad de Arizona con él, llegué y me presentó un proyecto maravilloso sobre inteligencia social. Me hizo partícipe del proyecto y aprendí con él a nivel profesional y a nivel personal. Acto seguido planteamos un proyecto aquí y como resultado del proyecto le invité a venir a España. De ahí el ciclo de conferencias que tiene lugar hoy y que tiene lugar mañana en la Universidad de Rey Juan Carlos, en las que además se expondrán los resultados del estudio, que efectivamente también hablará y expondrá él hoy. Y simplemente quiero compartir con vosotros que gracias al programa y a Alex yo he crecido personalmente. Entonces espero de verdad que disfrutéis de la conferencia y it is a pleasure to have you here. Muchas gracias.
Buenos días. No hablo español. So, Lilian Velasco, Franzale. I'm delighted, honored to be here. Thank Carmen and Lillian and the conference sponsors. Yes, thank you, Manuel. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, es para mí un placer estar aquí. Gracias a Carmen, al equipo y por supuesto a los patrocinadores y al Colegio Oficial de Psicólogos.
I've been studying psychology for many years, and as a research psychologist, that noise is, can you stop that? Maybe turn this on? No?
I don't know if maybe it's from there.
The coat? Pick off the coat. As Carmen and Lillian know, because they visited me in Arizona State, that usually I wear jeans and t-shirt.
Por el
But
calor.
now, in Madrid, yes, I wear a tie, which I borrowed from Carmen's father, see, a Madrid tie.
Como sabemos, él vive en Arizona, es un lugar donde hace muchísimo calor y normalmente él está pues con pantalón corto y con camiseta, y ahora bueno, le hemos prestado una corbata para estar aquí en Madrid por acorde con el clima, ¿no?, que hace aquí también en Madrid.
How many of you understand English when I speak it? Raise your hand. Oh, about 1/3.
Un tercio de las personas que están entienden el inglés.
I'm going to say a few words briefly about, before I start the talk, because I've done research in clinical psychology for 40 years. Okay? And I've come to a certain place in my work that requires me to learn from my wife, Carmen, from Lillian, and from all of you. And that place is social intelligence. I've done research on interventions, including studies of mastery and mindfulness. Okay. But they have led me to know that we need more education in the social part of understanding one another.
Llevo más de 40 años ejerciendo desde el campo de la psicología clínica con diferentes tipos de intervención, incluyendo el mindfulness, pero a partir del trabajo que he desarrollado acerca de la inteligencia social junto a las personas que están conmigo, sobre todo de mi esposa, es cuando he investigado más acerca de esta área de la inteligencia social en la intervención.
Okay, so why? So, I'm not sure about Spain, but in the United States, there's a crisis of humanity. And we need to be treating each other differently. And social intelligence is the method, a method by which we can educate one another to learn how to treat each other with humanity, with respect, to care for one another better than we have in the past. Now you'll notice, by the way, for those of you who speak English and Spanish, that you're going to get two talks, really. You'll get my talk, and then you'll get the talk that I wrote before, that Lillian translated. And so she's going to have the tough job of knowing what to say. So I'm not saying exactly what I said I was going to say. You understand? No. 1/3 you do.
Bueno, no sé, en el caso que ocurre en Madrid o en España, estamos atravesando una crisis importante en cuanto a la humanidad, en cuanto a la humanización. Es evidente que existe una necesidad por tratarnos unos a otros de manera diferente. El método es educarnos precisamente en esta inteligencia social, ya que encontramos cada vez más desprecio por los demás, y el revertir esta tendencia desde la propia educación va a permitir que nos desarrollemos desde un punto de vista social. Y bueno, va a haber dos charlas, ¿no? Lo que propone Alex, que evidentemente intentaré traducirlo tal cual, y todo lo que hemos trabajado ya previamente en relación con la charla.
Okay. Bueno. Okay. Next slide. Okay. What is social intelligence? We think of it in two ways. First, there's the part that means to successfully navigate the world, the social world around you. But more importantly, it's a shift in the sense of who we are, a shift in the sense of self in relation to others. And in our view, when we adopt a social intelligence framework, we're changing fundamentally from a self-centered organism to a social being one is able to form and sustain meaningful social relationships. And the capacity of social intelligence develops with experience and a thoughtful reflection about oneself, combined with a greater understanding of one's social world and enhanced motivation to become less self-focused and more attentive to others.
Como podemos ver, la inteligencia social es una combinación entre navegar con éxito en el mundo que nos rodea y sobre todo en ejercer el cambio, la percepción que tenemos sobre nosotros mismos. El adoptar este marco de la inteligencia social hace que cambiemos de un organismo centrado en nosotros mismos a un ser social capaz y dispuesto a formar y a mantener relaciones sociales significativas. Esta capacidad de inteligencia social la desarrollamos con la experiencia. Debemos de hacer primero una reflexión profunda de nosotros mismos con una comprensión del mundo social y una mayor motivación para ser menos centrados en sí mismos y más atentos a los demás.
Okay. Is it good so far? Yes? It's a little slow because the two languages. The problems of lack of social intelligence are enormous. There's three things we're going to talk about: disengagement, disconnection, disregard, and disengagement. Disconnection. Loneliness. Is it true in Spain? In the United States? Okay. 30%, up to 30% of people say they're lonely every day. 15 to 30%. 24% of Americans have no one to talk to. 80% of all crisis callers say they're lonely. Disengagement. A review of 72 empirical studies charting American college students' capacity and willingness to be empathetic and to see things from other people's perspective. A dramatic drop, 48% drop in empathetic concern, a 34% drop in perspective taking. Over the past 10 years, the drop is even more dramatic. So there's a need for greater attention to social intelligence education.
Los estudios muestran que estamos perdiendo la capacidad de empatía y la capacidad de toma de perspectiva mediante diferentes estudios, como un estudio metaanalítico donde se mostró que los estudiantes universitarios estadounidenses disminuían tanto la capacidad empática como la toma de perspectiva. Y lo más llamativo y el objetivo que tendríamos que plantearnos para revertir esta tendencia es que el mayor descenso se ha producido en los últimos 10 años de estos dos aspectos.
Disregard of others. In the United States, we call it bullying. I'm not sure what you call it in Spanish, but nearly, well, over 50% of school children will say they've been bullied. 1 out of 7 are bullied repeatedly. Okay. Online bullying also is rampant in our country, maybe in Spain too. Okay.
El bullying, ¿no?, o el acoso escolar se repite frecuentemente y en Estados Unidos más de la mitad de los estudiantes informan de acoso verbal o social al menos alguna vez durante los últimos 2 años. Los niños de diferentes orígenes, etnias, formas de vestir y orientación sexual suelen ser los blancos más frecuentes. Esto se está extendiendo y ahora no existe únicamente el acoso dentro del contexto escolar, sino también el acoso en los medios que utilizamos de tecnología y de comunicación social.
Okay, so what we've done is we've started with a group of principles based on social neuroscience, clinical and social psychology, and cognitive science.
Vamos a hablar acerca de los principios fundamentales de la inteligencia social basados en los estudios de neurociencia cognitiva, neurociencia social y de psicología clínica.
The first principle is the principle of the uniqueness. Every individual is unique. Each person, each of us, we come with our own perspective in the world, built on past experiences, our genetic heritage, the experiences we're about to attain, what we expect in the world. It's absolutely guaranteed that no one is alike, everyone is unique.
El primer principio es que cada persona es única y tiene su propia perspectiva sobre el mundo. Desde el momento en que nacemos, nuestros cerebros están construidos sobre la base de nuestras experiencias, nuestra cultura, genes y lo que percibimos a través de nuestros sentidos van a contribuir a lo que somos. Así que está garantizado de que nadie es igual a otro y nadie va a pensar exactamente del mismo modo.
See, it's a rhythm back and forth, yes. But Lillian has her own perspective on things. Those of you, 1/3 of you understood that.
Yo tengo mi propia perspectiva también de las cosas, aunque esté traduciendo ya.
So everyone sees the same thing differently. Your job is to figure out how other people see it. It's the ability to toggle back and forth between our own perspective and the perspective of another. But in order to do that, first we have to understand that another person has a different perspective than our own, right? They are unique. They don't see it the way we see it.
Cada persona es única y debemos de entender que la perspectiva que tenemos nosotros no es necesariamente la misma que puede tener la otra persona, y esa es la toma de perspectiva que difiere entre unas y otras personas.
Excelente. From cognitive science, we understand now that much of what we do and say and how we see the world is automatic. It's unconscious. Upwards 95 to 99% of what we say and do and think is automatic, unconscious. This is another basic principle in the building of our program, is to understand that we don't always know what we're saying and doing. At least we're not conscious of it until we begin to think about it.
En este segundo principio cabe mencionar que entre el 95 y el 99% de lo que decimos y hacemos proviene del procesamiento cerebral automático inconsciente.
So, our understanding of the world are built on rules of thumb, heuristics, they're called in cognitive science, but they lead to really biased judgments. Okay. Some of those judgments, like the ones on the screen, the man with the muscle, sort of self-fulfilling, what would you say, self-serving biases. Okay. But others are built on, like, oversimplification. We see people either as devils or angels. We don't understand the nuances and the complexities of each person. We oversimplify. We also place people in categories easily, readily, automatically, without thought. Black and white, Hispanic, European, Asian. And we put them in those categories, and those who are not in our group, they're them, okay, they're the out group. Okay. And biased judgments toward in versus out group reigns in our understanding and judgments of other people and ourselves.
Dentro de este procesamiento cerebral inconsciente nos planteamos diferentes reglas de oro que van a regir nuestros comportamientos, y entre estas reglas se encuentran los sesgos. Aquellos sesgos que nos permiten pensar de una manera más simple y que nos permiten hacer asociaciones y categorizaciones, y sobre todo cara a los juicios o a los prejuicios que ejercemos sobre otras personas. Tal y como podemos ver en las imágenes, hay diferentes sesgos, por ejemplo, relacionados con uno mismo, y el sesgo egocéntrico, ¿no? Tal y como se muestra en la figura donde está el chico mirándose en un espejo, o donde podemos ver si categorizamos a la persona como buena o mala sin tener en cuenta cuáles son aquellos aspectos que realmente están haciendo que esa persona sea de determinada manera. Es la manera que tenemos para categorizar y hacer nuestra vida un poco más simple.
Beautifully said. Yes. It's not exactly what I said, though. So, one of my colleagues in cognitive science said, well, that just shows how dumb people are, right? Well, that's the way academic psychologists like to think. Now I'm improvising, and she won't say this, okay, but the thing is, what it allows us to do is to be more understanding of ourselves and others. That's the clinical and social side of understanding the unconscious and the power of it. What I mean by that is, people don't always intend to mistreat us. We don't always intend to misjudge others. A lot of those processes are automatic. They occur in our brains with us even thinking about them. Okay? That once we understand that and acknowledge our own shortcomings, we can have more humility about ourselves, but more understanding of ourselves and more understanding of others.
Una vez que entendemos la idea de que gran parte del pensamiento y de la acción humana es inconsciente, también podremos ser capaces de mitigar los juicios críticos hacia los comportamientos de los demás. No todo lo que hacemos es intencionado y de manera entenderemos mucho mejor que lo que nosotros piensan y hacen no siempre va a plantearse de manera consciente y sin intencionalidad.
Bueno. So, much of our seeing of the world is built on our past experiences. In fact, we often walk around the world in this bubble, okay, where we carry our past forward into the future. We see what we expect to see. These are some of our individual automatic behaviors where we copy others. Okay? We walk behind others like this. If others walk that way too. But to understand ourselves and others is to understand we and others bring our past forward with us.
Cuando hay comportamientos individuales automáticos y cada uno de nosotros pensamos, sentimos de manera automática, basándonos en nuestra educación, en nuestra experiencia, tal parece que podemos o vivimos en una burbuja que nos va limitando hacia donde actuamos basados en esta experiencia pasada, imitamos a los demás, copiamos a los demás, pero necesitamos encontrar esa manera de actuar de manera individual.
But we can change. We can take a different path. Okay? Once we're aware of how we are proceeding, we can change. We have the capacity. We're human, after all.
Podemos cambiar y podemos ejercer ese cambio de rumbo. Somos humanos y podemos hacerlo.
This is the third principle of humanization. Second? No. Third?
¿Es el tercer principio? Humanización.
Sí. Principio.
¿Tercero?
Sí.
Third.
It's fundamental to the whole program, which is humanization. Is we treat ourselves and we treat others as humans. Not only do we recognize them as unique, not only do we understand that much of our behavior and attitudes are built on unconscious and automatic processes, those are the first two principles, but we take that further and understand that in order to advance ourselves and our relationships, we treat one another with humanity.
Este tercer principio es fundamental y indica que las demás personas no son objetos. Este principio va a subyacer a todos los demás. Las personas no son piezas de ajedrez, ni son objetos que deben ser manipulados para satisfacer nuestros propios deseos. Son humanos, como tú. Ellos tienen sus propios cerebros con pensamientos, creencias, sentimientos, y a esto le llamamos el principio de humanización, justo lo contrario de tratar a los demás como objetos, lo que es frecuente en los intercambios sociales actuales entre las personas.
Right, not as objects or body parts, not as chess pieces. We don't manipulate one another. We're in this to be a joint together. You don't have to say it. It's okay.
I say about the chess
You said it already.
The chess pieces.
This is the fourth principle, that social intelligence is a choice. And we make this choice every time we interact with someone else. We only have limited cognitive capacity, only limited capacity to be aware and to make choices. So we make choices about how to be aware. Okay. And choice is fundamental. That what it means is, if there are existentialists in the room, it's about that we are responsible beings as well, and those responsible for the choices that we make. Clearly in clinical, we're often engaged in the process of allowing a person to be released or untroubled by their past experiences that have led them down a path that's unhealthy. Okay. But the clients that you deal with and that you and people that you educate, you know basically have to make that choice to change. So choice is fundamental.
La elección es fundamental para la inteligencia social. Podríamos desarrollar un hábito de tratar bien a la gente, pero las relaciones sociales requieren también de esfuerzo y de responsabilidad. No ocurren por casualidad. Para poder conectar con los demás y mantener las relaciones con las personas, tenemos que ser positivos, establecer buenas relaciones y adaptarnos a los cambios. Incluso si es necesario, debemos dejar de lado una o más relaciones que pueden llegar a ser tóxicas o que han resultado dañinas para nosotros a lo largo del tiempo.
So the program is built on these four principles. Okay. And it's built in a certain way. It's built to reach people all over the world. Okay. It's built in basically 7 modules. No, yeah, 7 modules, which between 7 and 10 sessions within each module, all done online. Okay, online, rather than needing translators all the time. Okay. Hopefully we'll translate it into Spanish with Carmen and Lillian's help too. Okay.
La creación del programa está basado en estos principios y se ha diseñado un programa online que incluye 7 módulos, cada uno con diferentes vídeos de 5 a 10 minutos de duración. Y el objetivo es construir un método para adquirir conciencia sobre la importancia de la inteligencia social.
So here you see the first 4 modules. It starts with neuroplasticity. Okay? And the reason we start there is we start by giving people the idea, fundamental to learning, that they can change. And we know this from social neuroscience and neuroscience in general, that once people understand that the brain is always in the process of modifying itself, okay, so is the mind, okay, and so is their capacity for how they relate to themselves and to other people. You see the other principles here, the unconscious thought and action. We've already talked about that some as principles. It's now built into the module. Mind reading also is a module that talks about empathy and perspective taking and how fundamental that is to understanding one another. And them, which introduces in-group, out-group biases. In our country, this is a significant problem. It's a highly heterogeneous country with black and white, different nationalities, different languages, and many in-group, out-group differences, many in-group, out-group prejudices that we have to contend.
Simplemente destacar que desde el primer módulo de neuroplasticidad se fundamenta por la neurociencia social y la neurociencia cognitiva que nuestro cerebro no se queda estático, sino que la neuroplasticidad nos invita a vernos como capaces de aprender y cambiar nuestro punto de vista acerca de las relaciones sociales.
Here are the last 3 modules. Now, module number 5, face-to-face communication, includes concepts like synchrony, the ease, ebb, and flow of ease conversations. And then the dysynchrony, what happens when people don't connect. Okay. We include in module 5 also discussions of the internet, web-based communications, and the value, possibilities, the promise of Facebook and Twitter and other methods by which people can connect with one another, but also the potential harms, well, maybe not harms, but dangers associated with believing that that's all there is in communication. We go from the past, which discusses the importance of early childhood as well as adolescence and other levels of learning, attachment, and troubles with insecure attachment. And the future, which talks about the way in which people can change and modify whatever approach they currently have, should they care to, should they choose to.
En el módulo 5 se insiste en la necesidad de conectar con los demás, de realmente conectar a partir de un proceso de sincronización, y también hablamos de el internet y las nuevas redes sociales que por un lado están obteniendo varios beneficios a nivel social, pero también los peligros asociados o los riesgos asociados de distraernos muy fácilmente y no llegar a tener una conversación con los demás.
The best studies of this new program have been done right here. Right here, by your own professors. Carmen and Lillian have done the best work, and that's why we're here today, really. We're so excited about the work that they've done. Proud of it, and also we're able to launch our program further by the work that they've done. They worked with our first prototype of the program. We're now building and finalizing the second prototype. But they have a series of results from their studies of the first prototype. I'm going to describe those today in this talk. Tomorrow at another conference, Carmen and Lillian will be talking about it, as they should, because it really is their study, but I get a chance to talk about it and shine really in their shadow, actually, to be able to talk about this. They had a study of university students aged 17 to 21 with an N of 268. Yes? I'll just go on?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I can explain this. Bueno, aunque se muestra aquí, el estudio que se está realizando actualmente en la Universidad Rey Juan Carlos, lo hemos hecho con diferentes estudiantes, con 268 estudiantes que han realizado el programa online, han realizado reflexiones individuales, las reflexiones que vienen en los vídeos, y este programa se está actualizando y se está obteniendo una mejoría del programa, pero ahora vamos a mostrar los resultados que hemos obtenido de la realización de este programa en estos estudiantes. Mañana tendremos la oportunidad también de conocer más en profundidad, más resultados acerca de los efectos de este programa en nuestros estudiantes de la universidad.
Okay. So, we divided the sample into two groups. Those with evidence based on this measure that's up on the screen here, for secure attachment, and those who are insecure attachment, either avoidant or anxious. And there's a single question that a person is given: which of these three paragraphs best describes you? And they check which paragraph best describes them. Now, in the United States, 50% of the population, adult population, is securely attached, and the rest of the population is divided into either anxious or avoidant. Okay. As a university professor, I get to be, well, mostly in my office looking at my screen and avoiding everybody else. Okay. I'm an avoidant attached. My wife tells me that sometimes I'm anxiously attached. Yes, she can go to work. Okay, fine. But do I want to go after her? Sometimes, yes. Come back, please. But anxious and these types of insecure attachment come with troubles. They come with social relationship troubles. That's the problem. Okay. Now, in In Spain, I'm not sure what your average is in the adult population, all right? But I know that in Carmen and Lillian's study, 75% were securely attached. The other 25% are insecurely attached and divided, not exactly equally, but fairly equally into the other two groups. So as we go through the study results, you'll see the results presented in one of two ways.
En el análisis de los datos dividimos a la muestra en estudiantes que contaban con un apego seguro y con apego inseguro. Tal y como podemos ver en la diapositiva, utilizamos el instrumento del cuestionario del apego y la muestra en la Universidad Rey Juan Carlos resultó el 75% tenían apego seguro y el 25% tenían apego inseguro. En los Estados Unidos, el 50% de la población tiene apego seguro, aproximadamente, y el otro 50% se divide entre el apego inseguro, por un lado, ansioso o evitativo. En el caso de Alex, menciona que muchas veces su mujer le dice que él tiene un apego ansioso porque a veces está dentro de su ordenador y no hace caso a nadie más.
We should go through these slides relatively quickly. We want to make sure we finish on time.
Okay.
These slides are designed to show pre-post differences, 4 months of the program in between. And the two lines, one is for securely attached and the other one insecurely attached. And along the y-axis is the dependent variable. And at the top is a description of what we've had. Okay, so in this case, this one shows that both securely and insecurely attached improve in this self-regulation measure called self-monitoring from pre to post after the program. Notice, however, the difference going in and sustained pre to post between the securely and insecurely attached. You'll see this throughout all the slides.
En este primer gráfico vamos a mostrar los resultados pre y post, que es 4 meses más tarde de realizado el programa. Las puntuaciones post para los estudiantes de apego seguro e inseguro mostraron una mejoría en relación a la escala de monitoreo. Vamos a mostrarles diferentes gráficas muy parecidas. Vamos a ir un poco más rápido, pero si alguno tiene alguna pregunta concreta relacionada con la gráfica, nos la puede hacer.
Both securely and insecurely attached improved in sensitivity to others.
Mejoró la sensibilidad hacia los demás también, tanto los que tenían apego seguro como los que tenían apego inseguro.
Both securely and insecurely attached improved in self-acceptance.
Ambos, apego seguro e inseguro, incrementaron también sus niveles de autoaceptación.
Both securely and insecurely attached. No, actually, only insecurely attached. Well, they showed the most improvement. The securely attached are at the top.
Las personas con apego inseguro mostraron la mayor mejoría en identificar y describir sus emociones, medido a través de la escala de alexitimia, que es la incapacidad para identificar y describir emociones, lo cual aumentó después de realizar el programa en aquellos con apego inseguro.
Even in alexithymia, which is often thought to be something that doesn't change.
Incluso en un rasgo estable, como lo es la alexitimia, que se supone que no tiene la tendencia al cambio, este cambio se produjo.
Both securely and insecurely attached increased in self-efficacy for interpersonal relations.
También aumentaron los niveles de autoeficacia tanto para aquellas personas con apego seguro como con apego inseguro.
Both improved in emotional intelligence.
Ambos mejoraron también en la inteligencia emocional.
The insecurely attached improved the most in purpose in life from the Carroll-Riss Well-Being Scale.
Las personas con apego inseguro mostraron la mayor mejoría en la subescala de propósito en la vida medida por la escala de bienestar psicológico, y apego inseguro muestra una clara mejoría.
both improved in our measure, the Tromsø measure of social intelligence.
También ambos mejoraron en los niveles de inteligencia social medido por la escala de Tromsø y una escala que se está desarrollando por el equipo investigador para evaluar la inteligencia social.
And both improved in psychological well-being in general, using the Carroll Risk Scale.
Ambos también mejoraron los niveles de bienestar psicológico, evaluado a través de la escala de bienestar psicológico, el RID.
Okay, so we're delighted with these findings, of course. On every significant measure of value and that we hope to find, we found changes. And in measures we didn't expect to find changes, we didn't find. For example, emotional empathy didn't change. And we didn't expect that to change. Okay. That is perspective taking, cognitive empathy that changed. Also, another variable, self-attachment itself. People became more securely attached in their reports at post following the intervention. That's another measure that generally thought to not change very well or easily.
De los resultados que encontramos, existen dos resultados y dos variables, lo que es la empatía y la toma de perspectiva, que esas no fueron modificadas después de realizado el programa, pero sí que el apego se cambió de un apego inseguro a un apego seguro después de realizar el programa, lo cual también eran resultados que no esperábamos, ya que estos son o se muestran como rasgos más estables.
Carmen and Lillian will be taking the lead in publishing the results of the study.
Nos encargaremos, por supuesto, de publicar los resultados de este estudio, estos y, por supuesto, todos los que se deriven del estudio.
Applications. First of all, we are introducing the social intelligence training in schools, not just colleges, but high schools. We have one study begun in a what's called a charter school for gifted, highly intelligent students. But they're just not more intelligent socially than you or I.
Estamos trabajando actualmente para entrenar en inteligencia social a diferentes poblaciones y una de ellas es en las escuelas con los niños y sobre todo los niños de altas capacidades que muestran puntuaciones elevadas en el cociente intelectual, pero no en la inteligencia social.
In corrections, we are beginning a study for those people in diversion programs who have been arrested for aggressive acts. We think it will also apply well to help people with domestic violence.
En las correccionales, por ejemplo, estamos planeando probar el programa de formación para los detenidos por delitos de agresión e incluida la violencia doméstica y ayudar a aquellas víctimas de violencia doméstica.
We're beginning a study for people with serious mental illness who are in recovery. Because in recovery, it's not just enough to recover from the mental health problems of emotional disturbance. And it's also important to reconnect with the community, be able to find jobs and live well.
También estamos trabajando en las personas que se recuperan de alguna enfermedad mental grave y cara al fortalecimiento de los esfuerzos en su rehabilitación y en la inserción en la sociedad, en la comunidad para encontrar trabajo y para adaptarse.
These are some of the directions we're taking. Here's an example. Imagine a study which we've actually conducted on people in midlife who report early childhood problems of abuse, for example. Okay. They begin with early life adversity. We found that people who report early life adversity also report more trouble with social relationships in the family and elsewhere. Those difficulties currently, as well as in the past, lead to more health and mental health problems. That is, it places them at risk for health as they age. They're more likely to develop any number of heart problems or health problems, somatic complaints, any number of difficulties. So what we've decided to do is introduce social intelligence training here. As you see in this graph, an arrow is social intelligence to reverse the impact of early life adversity on mental and physical health vulnerabilities.
Otro de los objetivos que se plantean desde la intervención en inteligencia social es revertir el impacto en la salud física y mental de aquellas personas que hayan sufrido experiencias y emocionalmente significativas infantiles. Entonces, si nosotros cambiamos aquí e intervenimos en la inteligencia social, aunque estas consecuencias de la salud física y mental sí que después de la intervención podrían disminuir, y podría disminuir esta respuesta a estos problemas somáticos que suele presentar gran parte de la población, y por supuesto aumentar y establecer una adecuada inteligencia social a través de relaciones sociales significativas y adaptativas.
Some of you may work in facilities where you care for others, okay? Whether it's in life care facilities, like in life care facilities for the aged or for the mentally ill, or in education settings. And what we've noticed is in high quality, high technically qualified agencies, often there is only lip service to what's called person-centered care, that we need to treat one another and our clients and our patients with humanity. But to do so, we need to uplift the whole culture, the organizational culture. Okay? We need to train one another, okay, in how to relate best to other people, okay? Both not just our patients, but each other. So we've begun the process of devising and implementing a program of social intelligence that is for everyone in the organization. In this case, for a life care facility that treats elders who are disabled. So it's for the nurses, the skilled and the unskilled workers there. So the whole community can begin to understand how to treat one another with social intelligence.
Otro de los objetivos que se plantean es ejercer un cambio de cultura organizacional a la atención centrada en la persona. Quizá varios de ustedes trabajan con personas y trabajan evidentemente con pacientes, con enfermos, con personas que tienen algún trastorno tanto físico como mental. Necesitamos que esta cultura organizacional esté centrada en la persona. Necesitamos aumentar la humanización y el sentido de tratar a los demás como personas, tal y como mencionan los principios de la inteligencia social, y no solamente como objetos, y sobre todo cuando nos dedicamos en el cuidado a la salud, cuando trabajamos con agencias que formen a los profesionales de la salud, los diferentes profesionales de la salud, y tenemos que empezar ejerciendo el cambio desde la propia organización hasta la propia cultura, y que realmente logren entender la importancia que esto implica, el trabajar con personas y el cuidar a personas, que es el caso, por supuesto, también de la psicología.
So, anyway, we're very ambitious, but we're ambitious only because we have wonderful people working with us. In fact, I'm just standing here, I'm just a spokesperson, really, for a movement, a group of people, my wife included, perhaps even as the instrument of the change in the whole program, but also Carmen and Lillian in Spain, in charge of the international programs of social intelligence. And then we have a group of faculty and students back in Arizona who are moving forward with our program, finding ways to implement it and evaluate for success. So this is just the new worldview we have in mind is skill, training, yes, but not really. Social skills are not fundamental. What's fundamental is the idea that we're not just self-centered organisms, that we really aren't self-centered organisms. We belong in relation with others. Right? In fact, we're best described, when we describe what humanity is, it is fundamentally social in our relations. That's who we are.
Somos, y esto es un proyecto bastante ambicioso, ya que partimos del trabajo que he realizado y que también ha realizado mi mujer en Estados Unidos, en Arizona, y estamos ahora intentando internacionalizar lo más posible este programa de inteligencia social aquí en España, en Latinoamérica. Y por supuesto lo que nosotros logramos a partir de la demostración de que las personas con fuertes lazos sociales con otros tienen mayor salud, tienen mejor funcionamiento, las organizaciones con personas socialmente inteligentes son más productivas, y lo que debemos de crear es este compromiso y poder llegar a este paso cara a la humanización de las relaciones sociales.
I'm not sure whether you said this down here. What I want to say is why to do this. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it's also healthier. The evidence shows that people who are socially connected are healthier and they live longer. Their immune systems are better activated and more in control. Okay? Schools like this type of program. Why? Because it also makes people perform better. They're more academically capable. Okay? They're not as absent from school as much, but also the executive functioning is enhanced. So these are some of the benefits that come naturally with doing what we ought to be doing in the first place.
Son varios los beneficios que se pueden encontrar y que podemos obtener a partir de una mayor competencia de inteligencia social desde las organizaciones, en las escuelas, de manera personal. Así que esto se plantea como una necesidad también, el poder realizarlo.
Excelente. My wife gets nervous whenever I get to talk.
No, well, she's talking. Se pone nerviosa su esposa.
I'll erase that. Okay, so this is us.
Okay.
Oh, so, we'd like to show you a bit of the program, what it looks like, the latest version. Just one of the sessions. And this is the last session within the module called Them.
Les vamos a mostrar uno de los vídeos que se están trabajando actualmente, estamos finalizando, para que vean un ejemplo de ellos.
These past few sessions appear to paint a rather unattractive picture of us humans. We readily identify with them groups and out-groups, assigning greater value to those in our own group, reacting with bias against people who are different from ourselves. Many of our opinions of groups different from our own are fully formed by age 6, and the groupings are so arbitrary. Something as simple as a flip of a coin can place us at odds with each other, treating others with indifference, even cruelty, as we classify those on the outside, not as humans, but as objects. Scary stuff. But does it have to be this way? Are we so inclined to see things as us versus them? A dog-eat-dog world? The answer is
Voy a
no,
volver a
but you have to
ponerlo
consciously
porque hay
work at overcoming some
algunos cambios
competing
que no.
forces. First, we humans. We readily identify with them groups and out-groups, assigning greater value to those in our own group, reacting with bias against people who are different from ourselves. Many of our opinions of groups different from our own are fully formed by age 6, and the groupings are so arbitrary. Something as simple as a flip of a coin can place us at odds with each other, treating others with indifference, even cruelty, as we classify those on the outside, not as humans, but as objects. Scary stuff.
Can you hear it back
But
there?
does it have to be this way? Are we so...
Oh.
Perdón, es que es cuestión de el programa.
These past few sessions appear to paint a rather unattractive picture of us humans. We readily identify with groups and out-groups, assigning greater value to those in our own group, reacting with bias against people who are different from ourselves. Many of our opinions of groups different from our own are fully formed by age 6, and the groupings are so arbitrary. Something as simple as a flip of a coin can place us at odds with each other, treating others with indifference, even cruelty, as we classify those on the outside, not as humans, but as objects. Scary stuff. But does it have to be this way? Are we so inclined to see things as us versus them? A dog-eat-dog world? The answer is no, but you have to consciously work at overcoming some competing forces. First, we automatically band together into groups. On the one hand, it's a good thing, because it provides much-needed human connection and sense of belonging. However, it also leads to an unconscious fear of people who aren't in our groups, people who are in our out groups. Second, our
Sorry, technical difficulty.
Can we connect your laptop to the...
Do you think it'll be any different?
Computer.
What? Connect Ebus.
Read the videos, your laptop? Because it's the problem of it.
We'll fix it just a moment, please.
Yes. We're in time.
Go beforehand? Yeah. Just,
Okay.
oh, while we're setting this up, why don't we take a few questions? Yes? And Lillian can translate if you speak in Spanish. And Eva Sauter will be coming up on stage as well.
It's very difficult for me to hear him speak because everything he says, I want to get up and say something too.
Alex, do you have it?
Usually, when we're talking, you know, like at a dinner table, I'll get talking. I get 1 minute. And then she says, wait a minute, that's not right. You don't get that correctly.
I want to say, can you hear me?
You need to turn this on.
It's your...
Hello. I just want to say that the program is built on neuroscience. So we've been working with kids on this, and we know that 8th graders understand this. And they understand neuroscience. They don't understand someone shaking their finger and saying, you're a bad kid, you know, you need to be kind. We never use those words. We never use the word bullying. We never use, you need to be doing this. We talk about that the brain works this way. It categorizes things, and that's how we are. It's not shortcomings. It's just understanding how we are. So that's what makes it different, because it's not a preachy thing.
We can...
Oh, yeah, okay.
These past few sessions appear to paint a rather unattractive picture of us humans. We readily identify with groups and out groups, assigning greater value to those in our own group, and reacting with bias against people who are different from ourselves. Many of our opinions of groups different from our own are fully formed by age 6. And the groupings are so arbitrary. Something as simple as a flip of a coin can place us at odds with each other, treating others with indifference, even cruelty, as we classify those on the outside, not as humans, but as objects. Scary stuff. Does it have to be this way? Are we so inclined to see the world as us versus them? A dog-eat-dog world? The answer is no, but you have to consciously work at it, because you need to overcome some competing forces. First, we automatically band together into groups. This is a good thing, because it provides much-needed human connection and sense of belonging. However, it also leads to an unconscious fear of people who aren't in our groups, people who are in our out groups. Second, our brain processes people who are not like us in a different place in the brain. it is easier for our brains to process information about people who are similar to us. But when they are different, it requires much more of our mental effort. Thus, it's more difficult to understand their point of view, and, at the extreme, it's even difficult to see them as human. Understanding the power of outgroup bias is an awareness most people don't have. It puts you in the position of thinking and acting with more wisdom than ever before. Now, you'll be able to see others with less bias, acknowledging differences, but not letting those differences hold sway. And, unlike before, you'll be more alert to situations that encourage people to misunderstand one another. Situations that have the potential of turning human relations into a runaway train wreck, whether it be bullying in school, or at the office, or serious inhumane treatment exhibited in the Stanford study. In addition, you now understand that biased behavior toward others is usually the result of unconscious processes, and are rarely intentional attempts to treat others poorly. Thus, some patience and understanding may be in order when you see others react with prejudice. And finally, you now have enough knowledge to take a leadership role, quietly guiding others to find a better way when the situation demands it. Give an example of how outgroup bias influences your life. How do you handle it? Can you think of a better way to handle it in the future? What's your new strategy?
So every lesson has kind of a neuroscience research little video with a reflective question like that. And they enter that straight into the computer.
Cada una de las sesiones, al final del vídeo, viene una pregunta reflexiva que es lo que después se refleja también en la información que llega.
And then we have them do this. We made for the schools, for the younger kids. We have them do an exercise, something they can do at home, and go out and do it. We call it experience it. So we just started making these little whiteboard animations. This is brand new for us, and we want to see how this works.
Este vídeo es nuevo, que se desarrolló a partir del trabajo que realizamos con las escuelas para que los niños, cuando tengan que llevarse su tarea a casa, puedan verlo de una manera más animada y de una manera más con más dibujos. Les vamos a mostrar este vídeo que está basado en una animación con la pizarra blanca.
So in addition to the video about research and the reflection question and the experience it, we also have the actual research, the journal articles there, so they can read those online or they can download them but only if it's free access. That's the journal. I don't know about the journals here in Spain, but in the United States, normal people can't see it. You have to buy those journal articles. So we get our articles from open source people.
Aparte de ver los vídeos, de hacer las reflexiones y de las tareas, ¿no?, que tienen que hacer basadas en la experiencia, aparte se les pide que lean los diferentes artículos basados en todas las investigaciones y toda la parte más empírica, pero en el caso de los Estados Unidos, pues normalmente cuestan estas revistas. Here, sometimes the university buys the license, some university buys license, but we have plenty of free journals also for people.
See, we don't.
Actually, here in the colegio, there are free journals, so you can have the.
So we want them to see that there's research behind this. This isn't just silliness talking. You know, it's really backed by research.
So maybe Carmen, you could join us, and we'd love to have questions. We'd like to engage you in things that are on your mind about what we've just said. Okay, so that's all we have.
Nos encantaría contestar preguntas, si tienen cualquier pregunta que nos pudieran hacer, y estaremos encantados de contestar.
Questions?
¿Preguntas?
Please.
¿Alguna?
Hi, ¿en español o en inglés?
Si puedes en inglés.
Puedo hacer las dos para que lo entiendas. I've been studying this, and I think it's very interesting and really necessary what you're studying. But how are you gonna work stereotypes and prejudices? Because I think social intelligence is very important, but stereotypes are really wide. And if you say, look, this girl isn't so weird, she talked me about a book you might like, he might say just, oh no, I'm not interested in it. Anything that this girl likes, I won't be interested in it. Like, I don't know, I've had experiences about this, and stereotypes really attack a lot of areas.
The thing about it is our brain automatically does that. It's not something we choose to do. Our brain categorizes people, and it's automatic, and we can't change our brains from doing that. But we can recognize that our brains do that and that other people's brains do that. So all you can do is stop yourself and recognize it in yourself and recognize it in other people when they're doing it too. So it really is like I watch it all the time. I watch it in myself and I watch it in other people. And we're not bad human beings. We just do that. So it's just going to take yourself, like he showed a slide up there, to change course. You notice yourself doing it, so you have to stop yourself doing it if you want to. It's a choice. It's a choice every day.
Just a moment. But you see, I get to speak second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which is great, because usually she's correcting me, but I'm not going to correct her actually. What you're talking about is also endemic. I mean, it's built into the culture. So that sometimes what we really need to do is uplift the entire culture, like the whole school, the whole community. So how do we do that? Well, we have to start somewhere, right? So, and we think that education is a good place to start. I mean, and a thorough education, comprehensive view of what social relations are about, not piecemeal. Well, I don't know if you can translate all this, but like you can't beat it out of a person. Like some corrections officers like to do it that way. They say, you're aggressive, we're going to beat this violence out of you. That doesn't work. We've tried that approach, and actually corrections education is still doing the power relations curriculum. What we're trying to do is to inform, educate, and uplift. But it does take time, and it takes the whole culture change sometimes.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a very interesting job what you're doing, but I think it's difficult.
It is difficult, and we show that them module is the biggest one, and we show implicit bias. We show that we are biased even when we swear up and down that we're not biased. You know, we have problems with juries in the United States. I mean, they pick, you know, are you prejudiced? Do you? But we do, and we don't even know it. So we show all kinds of studies on that's what we do. We just have to start being aware of it and start catching ourselves. And it really does start with us, you know, one at a time.
The biases are so fundamental. I was speaking to an audience of black and white Americans the other day, and I was talking about how you have two people in the scanner, one experiencing pain and the other one observing the person in pain. And if they're the same race, they'll both show, the person observing will show register of pain in their brains. They'll have empathy. But if they're different races, they're black watching white, white watching black, they won't. Pretty fundamental.
It's a completely different part of the brain.
Okay, no, solo por just translating something. Preguntaban cómo se podría hacer el cambio para poder eliminar los estereotipos o para poder eliminar los prejuicios que tienen, como el ejemplo que vimos en el vídeo. Lo que plantean es a ejercer, como este comportamiento hacia los demás es automático, se plantea hacer de una manera más consciente. Entonces, a nosotros identificar que estamos teniendo esta reacción automática negativa hacia los demás, primero es hacernos consciente de ello, evidentemente querer ejercer ese cambio, por lo cual es una elección que nosotros tenemos que hacer. Si alguien habla mal de otra persona, nos damos cuenta que está haciendo eso, lo hacemos consciente y intentamos coger otro camino o desviar esa conversación, desviar ese foco hacia esa persona ante la cual se tiene este estereotipo. La cuestión fundamental aquí es empezar desde la propia educación, desde el propio sistema educativo, para eliminar esta reacción involuntaria, esta reacción automática, estos pensamientos automáticos, que de hecho muchas veces los trabajamos también desde la psicología, y desde una educación que empieza desde los niños, desde edades muy tempranas, para posteriormente ejercer ese cambio, sabiendo que si lo estamos haciendo de una manera consciente. Uno de los estudios que muestra, y que además es el que ha mencionado Alex y que nosotros se va a publicar recientemente, bueno, se va a publicar también en aproximadamente 2 meses, ¿no? Un manual relacionado con esto, con la inteligencia social y con todos los estudios científicos, empíricos que apoyan también este programa. Existe un estudio en el que se muestran diferentes fotografías de distintas personas en donde se les hace daño a estas personas a través de una estimulación mecánica, una estimulación térmica. Se mide cuál es la reacción cerebral y se mide cuál es la actividad cerebral, qué áreas se están activando. Si la persona pertenece a la misma raza o al mismo grupo étnico de la persona a la que se le está haciendo daño, se activan las áreas cerebrales relacionadas con la empatía. Pero si la persona pertenece a otro grupo étnico distinto, no se activan esas áreas, con lo cual se puede concluir que mi reacción cerebral es ante un objeto y no ante una persona. Es por ello el tema de la humanización en estas relaciones sociales. Si yo percibo a mi igual y puedo tener la capacidad de ser empático con él, pero si no es igual a mí, no lo percibo. Y de hecho en el programa hay algunos vídeos también relacionados con esto y con diferentes sesgos, ¿no?, que aplicamos en nuestro día a día, como a quién ayudamos, ¿no? Experimentos en la psicología social que también existen relacionados con ello, ¿no? Gente que necesita ayuda, pues que se le pincha una rueda o que pide dinero en la calle, algún vagabundo, no los percibimos como personas sino como objetos, por eso no nos involucramos ante esa búsqueda de ayuda que están pidiendo estas personas. I translated the stories and the video. About
She knows studies better than we
She
do.
knows the study.
we have read a lot.
More questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's start with this.
You've been talking about the research that you're doing with Spanish students in University Rey Juan Carlos, and the outcomes you've been talking about, things like self-control, perception taking, self-efficacy, things like that. But you also commented something about social intelligence scaling, which you are working on. Could you please explain a little bit more?
The items in the scale.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's a scale that we're using. It was authored by an Italian researcher. And that was the scale we used in that study.
The Tromsø?
No, the Tromsø.
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 Do you know
Tromsø
some of
scale.
the items in that scale?
Do I
offhand?
have them?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
You could
Okay.
also,
We'll get
by
those.
the way, if you'd like, anytime any of you in the audience would like more information, you can send me an email. I may not understand it at first, but I can get it translated, and then I can reply with, the scales if you're interested, or other information. And also, Carmen in particular and Lillian both can do the same. Of course, they're the ones who did the study also, so probably the best to use for that.
Thank you.
Habla más.
Micro.
Como hay varias personas que les contestamos, les preguntamos primero lo que han preguntado acerca de la escala que me lo han dicho para que lo traduzcamos.
Perfecto. Han preguntado acerca de la escala que estamos utilizando para evaluar la inteligencia social, y es una escala que los investigadores principales han creado a partir de varias escalas. Es una escala que no está publicada todavía, está en inglés, y lo que hicimos fue que nos enviaron... Ajá. Van a poner la escala que está traducida al español. Lo que hemos realizado ha sido traducirla al español. Tiene 5 factores que son muchos de los que hemos presentado en los resultados. No obstante, mañana en las jornadas de inteligencia social se presentarán los resultados a nivel más específico en relación con esta escala. Sí que uno de los objetivos es justamente publicar la escala, y de todas maneras la respuesta que ha tenido el profesor Alex Zautra es que en cualquier momento puede escribirle un email, le puede enviar la escala, y por supuesto tanto Lilian Velasco como yo estamos a vuestra disponibilidad para poder compartir la escala si estáis interesados. Gracias.
There are 2 questions from the people that are seeing us around the internet website. So the first one is that if you can tell us the differences between social intelligence and emotional intelligence. What would be the difference?
Excellent question. Yes. And they share many similarities, because certainly to be socially intelligent requires an awareness of others' feelings and one's own feelings. And emotional intelligence is about the ability to understand one's own feelings and regulate them well. But there is one important difference that we think makes social intelligence more primary, which reverses the order in some people's minds about which comes first. Because the difference is, in emotional intelligence, it's still about me, about my feelings, about what I own, what I should say, how I should feel. Okay. In social intelligence, it's not all about me. It's about us. It's relational, fundamentally, which is fundamentally what human condition is, social. So, as you saw from the results from Carmen's study and Lillian's study, that emotional intelligence improves with social intelligence training. We think that the way the mind works is like this. It's once you put a direction, a goal, I want to become more socially intelligent in this case, connect well with others who are like me and those who aren't like me. Okay? Once you put that to mind, your brain works to make that happen. And one of the things it has to do to make that happen is to be more emotionally intelligent, right? It begins to think, what are my feelings? What are my thoughts? How do I regulate myself well in order to engage with others? So that's how we see it. And my wife is going to have something to say.
We thought this at the very beginning, at least I thought this at the very beginning, because people would say, oh, you have to be emotionally intelligent before you can be socially intelligent. And I just intuitively thought, no, once I start connecting with people, my emotions will fall right in line. And it never really occurred to me to test emotional intelligence until you guys did it. And it was like, oh my God, it's right here on paper. It did do that. So I was very surprised. Not surprised, I knew it, but I was delighted to see that it really did. Our emotions do just work naturally. We don't have to work at it when we're connected to other people. It just happens.
If you look in the advertisements of Lumosity, for example, okay, and many of you don't.
I have it over here.
Maybe you don't.
Do you have Lumosity?
Lumosity is what?
Mind training.
It's mind training in the United States.
No.
Well, never mind. But anyway, well, the basic principle is, some people think this is, you have to do it this way. Learn to feel. Okay. Well, it's not about learning the grammar and all the vocabulary of emotions. Okay. And it's setting yourself in motion to learn from others, and connect. And it goes naturally.
It's a natural state.
It comes with it. That's what we think.
And I have to say, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a PhD. I'm a business person. And so I came across this in an entirely different way from a personal point of view. So I didn't look at this as research. I didn't look at this as an academic like you guys do. So all of this is applicable to me as a normal person.
Well,
not that you're not normal, but
well, the point is, we are people first. Sometimes forget that.
A veces olvidamos, simplemente por resumir un poco, olvidamos que somos personas y que muchas veces las emociones van a surgir a partir de las diferentes interacciones sociales. Eva menciona que ella no es psicóloga, no es doctora, no es investigadora, pero se dio cuenta de la importancia de esto a raíz de su interacción con las demás personas y cómo esta interacción llevaba también a ella a experimentarle una serie de emociones. Entonces, una cosa está relacionada con la otra. La inteligencia emocional es más, mi percepción es cómo yo siento, es mis emociones dentro de yo, pero estas emociones van a aflorar cuando yo empiece a interactuar con los demás. El ser humano es básicamente social, con lo cual si nosotros no tenemos relaciones sociales no van a poder aflorar estas emociones o estos sentimientos que están relacionados con los demás. También mencionan que es un estado reflexivo en el que nosotros tenemos que ser conscientes de qué es lo que me lleva a experimentar o cuáles son las emociones que experimento en relación a mi interacción con los demás. Plantean que existen diferentes agencias, igual que aquí, ¿no?, dedicadas al entrenamiento en emociones, a la inteligencia emocional, pero en realidad nos obligan o nos plantean una especie de automatismo en aprender a identificar emociones, en saber todo el repertorio emocional, pero luego cuando estoy interactuando con alguien es cuando surgen realmente estas emociones. No tanto cuando estoy yo conmigo mismo surgen, pero siempre van incrementadas por la relación con los demás. There is another question. Hay otra pregunta. ¿Cómo trabajar el hacer consciente lo inconsciente en la relación social, quizá un poco también lo que había mencionado ella, ¿no? Acerca de los prejuicios. There is another question. How can we make conscious the unconscious in the social relationships? It's like, it's a little...
A wonderful question. It's almost Freudian, the question.
Yes. Casi freudiana la pregunta, ¿no?
See, but one way is to watch how others behave towards us. It's not all through self-observation. Well, by observing how others respond is one way to see that we're not really getting across what we thought we wanted to. We're not seeing.
How do we make the unconscious conscious? Well, the whole program is about that. It's about making the unconscious conscious. But I agree that we all kind of do live in this bubble with these blinders on, that you can only see what you can only see. It's kind of like being blind and then putting on glasses and then you can see. So I agree, it's very difficult to do that, but that's what this is all about, is to look at our unconscious beliefs and kind of start seeing the glitches, the things that we're doing that we don't know, and you'll start seeing them. You'll start seeing them. I don't know how to answer that question, except that's what this program is all about, to examine those self-beliefs that you have, that you've always had, and that's the only thing that you can see. And finally you'll say, oh, well, maybe there is another way to see things, and maybe there is another way to change my beliefs, the way I see the world. What would you say?
Yes, I think we were saying this thing before about the prejudice, about the stereotypes.
Yeah.
Es ser conscientes de en nuestro día a día y sobre todo autoobservarnos y ver en cada interacción que tengamos cómo estamos reaccionando ante las demás personas.
Like I had to do the same thing with my life. Once I learned attachment theory, I realized from examining my childhood, and examining the way I grew up and the way I was treated as a young baby, I was a very lonely person until I started examining those things about my life, things that carried out in everything I did, my relationships, in my job, and everything. But I started examining those things, and the unconscious things I was doing became very clear after I understood attachment theory.
Una de las maneras es a través de la teoría del apego, lo cual también hemos mencionado, el tipo de apego que establecemos en nuestra niñez con las figuras significativas, con nuestras figuras paternas significativas, con nuestra madre. Y una de las maneras en las que ella se dio cuenta es a partir del propio autoexamen, del propio autoanálisis que hizo a través de su niñez y de cómo esto había influenciado y estaba influyendo en sus comportamientos diarios, en sus relaciones interpersonales, pero es un examen constante de por qué estoy haciendo esto, si lo estoy haciendo y los beneficios que obtengo, más bien no son ningún tipo de beneficios, ¿por qué lo sigo haciendo? A partir de comprender esto, fue que hizo más consciente estas conductas, estos pensamientos, estas emociones.
Many people grow up distrusting others, fundamentally. Not that they're paranoid necessarily, not that far, but distrustful enough so they can't connect. It's a long journey sometimes to get from distrust to trust, from competition, soul competition, being alone, to collaborative relations. It takes effort and choice.
Effort and choice.
Ellos destacan el esfuerzo y la elección Es un largo viaje el que tenemos que hacer precisamente para poder ejercer este cambio entre lo inconsciente, lo consciente, el darnos cuenta, el que muchas veces establecemos relaciones con gente y no confiamos en esas personas. Nacemos y vamos acumulando a lo largo de nuestra vida relaciones en donde no confiamos en los demás, porque no confiamos primero en nosotros mismos, y eso es lo que tenemos que aprender a identificar.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Lillian.
Me gustaría utilizar un minuto porque desde el Colegio Oficial de Psicólogos me han comentado que las personas que están por videoconferencia están preguntando sobre información sobre las jornadas de mañana. Entonces, las jornadas, el díptico de las jornadas es el que está en el ordenador, y son mañana, durante toda la mañana, en la Universidad Rey Juan Carlos, en el Campus Alcorcón, en la Facultad de Ciencias de la Salud, y Alex Tautra y Eva darán una conferencia sobre la inteligencia social. Una persona del Ministerio vendrá a hablar sobre competencias, y también la decana de la Facultad de Ciencias de la Salud hablará sobre competencias en el marco europeo de educación superior. Entonces, son gratuitas y bueno, pues simplemente finalizarán con la presentación de los resultados del programa. Sí que, dado el tiempo que teníamos hoy, no hemos podido presentar todos los resultados, y es interesante, además, en relación con las preguntas que habéis hecho, que mañana se presentarán diferencias específicas en determinadas estrategias de regulación emocional que sí hemos medido, y anticipar que hemos encontrado que hay cambios en las estrategias más relacionadas con la interacción social que, como muy bien han explicado ellos, en estrategias que son más de autorregulación. Entonces, por supuesto, nuestra intención es publicar todos los resultados, pero invitaros a que si estáis interesados en conocer más sobre el tema, pues mañana podéis compartirlo con nosotros. Muchísimas gracias por todo.